Hello and welcome to this video on sequences, and we've come into tuples or tuples. So tuples are immutable sequences. So it's similar to lists, however, it's immutable, which means that you cannot change it. So the items that are inside of the tuple, it can't be changed. But there's an exception to that. If you have a mutable element inside of the tuple, it can be changed. So this is quite interesting. We'll look into that later on. So let's move into Visual Studio Code. So here I am in Visual Studio Code, and as you can have seen, we have just a folder here that is empty. So let's create a virtual environment if you don't have it already. So uvvenv. So source.ven bin activate. And note that if you already have a virtual environment, don't do this because this will overwrite your old one. Okay, and also here I don't work with Git and GitHub, but you should definitely work with Git and GitHub and always commit and push the code that you're creating. So that is something that I should say in all the videos, but some videos I do miss to say that for this course. But in this course, you should definitely work with Git and GitHub. Okay, so here we need to install something, uv pip install ipykernel. I need that for Jupyter Notebook. So now I have it, and then I do touch. Let's see, we can do like this, touch, let's see, tuples.ipnb. Okay, so now I can close down my terminal as I don't need that anymore. I can go into tuples, and here we have tuples. Actually, I mix tuples and tuples, so that's a little bit strange, but change here to your virtual environment to Python. Okay, so now let's work with tuples. So we can have a mixed tuples. As you could see with list last time, you can mix different stuffs inside. You can mix different data types. For example, we have a banana that is a string, we have 12 that is an integer, and 3.14 is a float, and then we have true is a boolean, right? So we can have mixed tuple, and you can see it's all these different things here. And we can do mixed tuple of 1, and we get 12. We can do mixed tuple of 0 to, or we can do colon 3 to get the 3 first elements. So 0, 1, and 2, right? So we can use slicing as we saw in the lists. However, we cannot do this. Look at this. Mixed tuple of 1 equals to 5. That doesn't work because tuple object does not support item assignment. As we said before, it's immutable, which means you cannot change this item, right? So that is an important thing. However, let's continue creating another tuple. Coordinates equals to, we have a tuple of lists here. 2, 5, and we have coordinates like this, and we have 1, 2, and 2, 5. However, I can do like this. Coordinates of 0, it's this list, right? And inside this list, I can get the 0th element, 1, and I change this to 50, for example. And now if you look at coordinates, you can see that, it changed to 50. But what did I say about the elements cannot change inside the tuple because it's immutable? The elements itself are immutable, or we cannot change the elements, but we can change an element that is mute. We can change the things that are inside an element that is mutable. So for example, the list is mutable, right? So inside of this, when we do coordinates of 0, we get this list 1, 2, and this is mutable inside, so we can change the elements inside of this list. That's no problem. Okay, I hope that was okay to understand. Let's move on to tuple unpacking. For example, we have x, y's, let's see, tuple unpacking. I need to change this one to markdown, and here x, y, z equals to 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we can do like this. X is equal to 1, y equals to 2, and z equals to 3, right? So they unpacked here, 1, 2, and 3. And this is quite useful, for example, if we want to do like this, x, y equals to y, x. So this is a way to swap the variables. So now if you do print f string x equals, and then you do f string y equals, and you can see that x equals 2 and y equals 1. Before it was x equal 1 and y equals 2. So we have swapped the variables. So that is quite useful for using tuple unpacking in this way. Okay, so then when should you use a list compared to a tuple? Let me just copy some code from my lecture notes, markdown code. I don't want to type this out. So you have here, you know that lists are mutable, so they can change. You can add, remove, modify elements. Tuples, they're immutable, cannot be changed after creation. So use case for list is when you have dynamical collections, items that need modifications. For example, a shopping cart, user list, etc. You need to add more users, right? While tuples is more for fixed records, unchangeable data, for example, coordinates, RGB colors, etc. So a lot of things that does not change use tuple. And when it comes to performance, tuple is slightly faster, but it's not so much. So you don't need to care about that so much. And for dictionary keys, you use tuple and not lists. And for when it comes to semantic intent, this is something that so that when someone reads your code, they will understand what you mean with it. When list, it implies that a collection that it will be changed, right? While tuple, it implies that it's a fixed collection. It's this, it won't change. So this is called semantic intent, so that it's a little bit clearer for the one that is reading your code could be yourself in a distant future, and it should be easy to understand. And it could also be team members, right? And other people. So in this lecture, we've gone through its immutable sequences in contrast to lists that are mutable and can have items of different data types, and both support indexing and both support slicing. However, for tuples, you cannot add, you cannot remove elements from there. And you can use tuple for unpacking, and in general, tuples, you get the semantic intent that you don't want to change this collection. And I hope that you have also worked with GitHub so that you commit and push your code. And after you've done that, thank you for watching this video and see you in the next one. Bye.